All right. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to welcome you all today to the 2025 State of the Pike event. As board chair of the Columbia Pike Partnership, I wanted to start by thanking each and every one of you for joining us today. We have community members, we have civic leaders, county officials, and so many other dedicated partners on the call today. This is one of CPP's most important events of the year, and really, your presence here reflects the shared commitment we all have to making sure that Columbia Pike becomes an even more vibrant, inclusive, and thriving community. I think we all know that 2024 was a challenging year with ongoing construction and infrastructure projects. Both businesses and residents had to navigate disruptions and uncertainty, but our community has remained resilient. We've worked together, supported one another, and continued to push forward. And now, as we come into 2025, we have a real opportunity to turn those challenges into progress. With new developments taking shape, small businesses finding their footing, and stronger partnerships across the board, this year is about building momentum and ensuring Columbia Pike remains a place where everyone can live, work, and thrive. We also hope to see you all at some of our upcoming CPP events, including the Next Lunch Club, which has become very popular, the Happy Hour, the Pike Progress Luncheon, and one of my personal favorites, the Blues Festival. To kick things off today, I have the honor of introducing Alex Sakis, the president of the Penrose Civic Association, chair of the Pike Presidents Group, and a key partner not only to the Columbia Pike Partnership, but to so many others on this call. Alex's passion for advocacy and his dedication to uniting our neighborhoods have been instrumental in shaping the direction of the Pike. Please join me in welcoming Alex Sakis.
Okay, everybody hear me okay? All good? Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Dan. I appreciate it. It's good to see you, and thank you to Andrew, especially, who's been a fantastic leader, colleague, personally, professionally. I'm so appreciative, professionally, for all the Pike partnership has done uh, for me in so many different facets over the last several years. Thank you to Chairman Takis Karantonis and all of our guests here this morning. So my name is Alex Vegas. I'm a 25-year resident of Columbia Pike, and I'm a product of Arlington County Public Schools, including Hoffman Boston Elementary and HB Woodlawn. Since 2021, I've served as the president of the Penrose Civic Association, my lifelong home of 25 years. And this past year, I'm very proud to have taken over as the new chairman of the Columbia Pike Presidents Group, which is comprised of the 10 civic associations that each reside along Columbia Pike. I'm very pleased that this past January, we've gotten back to resuming in-person meetings for the first time since COVID-19's outbreak in 2020. In doing so, I've had the opportunity and distinct pleasure of gathering my fellow hardworking Civic Association presidents and the partnership together to find commonality on the issues that matter most to us in these transformative times for Columbia Pike. I'm passionate that the Pike Presidents Group will be an instrumental force and a visible presence on Columbia Pike in regards to our mutual desire to strengthen small business retention and support, spurring new economic development, advocating for a safe, equitable, and multimodal transit for residents and families, supporting our public safety and recruitment and retention efforts for our police and fire personnel, supporting our public amenities such as our gorgeous parks, recreation centers, and public schools. I want to say that I fully empathize and I truly understand the challenges our community faces as we continue to wade through the ongoing streetscape improvements in these transitional times. With that in mind, I'm very pleased to see that Pike get the attention it long deserved, and I truly share the community's anticipation and excitement for the outcome of the most important improvements in the work that we've had in the last several decades. Lastly, given our proximity and our connectivity to our nation's capital, I want to be very clear about the importance of standing strong in our values during these incredibly trying times. We are being suffocated by a dangerous minority of people who are hell-bent on spreading the deplorable lie that diversity is the problem. On Columbia Pike, we take pride in knowing that our diversity is our biggest strength, and that's not hyperbole. We are home to the world in a zip code here in 22204, and we wouldn't be where we are today without the lifelong contributions from our beloved neighbors who have come from every corner of the globe to make themselves a better life here along Columbia Pike, and in return, continue to make a better life for all of us here each and every day on the Pike. So I want to say thank you for having me. I'd like to now introduce my friend Takis Karantonis, chairman of the Arlington County Board, to join us as our next guest speaker. Elected in 2020 and re-elected in 2021, Takis is a longtime Columbia Pike resident, former executive director of the Columbia Pike Revitalization Organization, now known as, of course, Columbia Pike Partnership. He's an economist and urban planner with over 25 years of experience. So, Takis, the floor is yours, my friend.
Now I am unmuted. I didn't have to unmute myself. Somebody else had to unmute me, and thank you for that. First of all, thank you, Alex, for the kind introduction, and Diana for keeping all this together and keeping it going, and Andrew and everybody who made this possible today. It's a very good thing to check in and to have a moment in the year when we assess what's happened last year and where we are today and where we want to go, especially in a year like this. I would be so happy to go back in time and contemplate the challenges that we had last year, having 2 entire years of construction in front of us, and this being our biggest problem. And I would like to be so happy to have just 1 year in front of us now, and being able to tell you, yeah, I'm absolutely focused, and I believe the entire county board is focused to get this multimodal project done, which we are. But unfortunately, on top of that, we have now other challenges that are accruing, and there is no other place that is an early seismographer of what's happening across the river and what is coming down the pike, pun intended. Like there's no other place like Columbia Pike. All these basically since November, we are hearing daily here from our residents. I don't need to explain to you the level of fear, apprehension, uncertainty that our immigrant neighbors have. We are a very diverse community, so anything that moves is actually of importance and has an impact on them. Several organizations, many nonprofit organizations, are acutely impacted, sometimes to a incredibly high degree, like ECDC. Just a week ago, that they temporarily had to furlough their personnel, and it's still unclear what happens next. But others as well, like Aspire and others. We see a steady and continuous increase of demand for services, for example, for food. AFAC numbers are through the roof. Our Lady Queen of Peace recipients of food assistance in pantries are through the roof. This is a whole of community impact scenario for which we anticipated to a certain degree, but the severity, the pace, the speed of that, the cruelty of that, I have to admit that I didn't anticipate it at this level. That said, we also see, and I am personally very thankful to everybody who is leaning in and trying to help, who is organizing, who is trying to alert neighbors, to muster all these networks and to bind them together so that an effective response is there. I'm also thinking of our businesses. They are also extremely impacted by all this, and they may be impacted further down the road as well. So a few things on my list of priorities this year. Number one, the multimodal project, getting it done late 2025. We are on track as far as I know, and we check very frequently. I am really invested in assessing properly the impact on small businesses and the ways and more of that, the ways they will recover after the project is done. There are many moving parts to that. A very big role is going to be the one of the Columbia Pike partnerships and other partners on the Pike. We need to find the most efficient and quick acting ways to make up for the lost time, revenue, and customer base. And it's not going to be an easy task, and it's also going to be a task where everybody will have to have a role, including the county government. So we will have to talk about retail support programs, how smart programs. I know that a lot has been done already, but more needs to be done, because I can see that. I live in this same neighborhood, so I can see this impact unfolding and question marks coming my way every single day. On the development side, I do believe that we all see that there is, we're still on a pipeline that is approximately 7 to 10 years old. There is a series of buildings right now coming up. The Barcroft, after we have approved the Barcroft plan, we see the first new construction at 4230, about 110 residential units. They're all affordable. We have 2801 Columbia Pike. This is the corner to South Walter Reed, and there is. I at least hope that we will be able to find a way to resuscitate the Elliott, the 2600 block development, and the delivery of the it's associated with the delivery of the other half of Penrose Square. 2300 9th Street. This gives me always pause, because this wasn't meant to be townhomes. It is townhomes. It is in the plan, actually. It is one of the options in the plan, but it was not the number one preferred option there. We have 1429 South Rolfe Street, 3401 Columbia Pike, which is the Bank of America building, 835 South Greenbrier Street, that is up. That's in Pike West development. All this is good. However, I do think that there are some others that are in works, or we hear a lot about. But this is a development pipeline that is, in my opinion, a little bit slower than what we anticipated a few years ago. So the dynamics there are just about stable, but not looking dynamic enough in a fast changing environment, in my opinion, as always. So I'm very open to discuss these things. On transportation, the multimodal project at this moment is the dominating problem that we have. We're doing our very, very best, and I think county staff is doing their very, very best to finish the project. We have other things that are popping up, like the issue of traffic calming on South Buchanan Street. We are working on this, and it is a critical part of the work that we are going to be doing this year. The transportation master plan, that we see the Pike in its holistic functionality as a transportation corridor, with its side streets and side traffic patterns, and its connectivity issues. I'm very interested and invested in hearing more about that from our communities, from our neighborhoods, and from those who are already engaging with the process. And I know a lot of Pike-based people have been doing that. On public places, on public spaces, the 4 Mile Run intersection is still on. It's something that we need to lean in more and see how these businesses and the public space there works, and what improvements we can still promote. And the Penrose Square begins to age a little bit, so we need to think about that, and also the adjacent public spaces in front of the Walgreens, etc. Then transportation again, the 16M that will soon be A40 after the WMATA rebranding, second rebranding, also not great, but still. Transportation and ridership has been recovering. I can say that at least the WMATA, the 16-line ridership on our 60M line or equivalents is back to pre-pandemic levels and is trending upwards. That's a good thing. 16Y, for example, is not back. It has been improving, but it's not nearly where 16Y was in 2019. So that gives everybody an idea of how the demographics may have shifted in this period in between. Other than that, we see a lot of. I do think that we have been taking on tweaks of the form-based code. I'm very thankful to the Columbia Pike form-based code group for adjusting the code. I still think that we need to work towards a unification of the two form-based codes, the commercial and the neighborhoods code. This is partially an item that I am bringing up during the update of our comprehensive plan in Arlington, which is happening this year. It is not a very big central piece of that, but it is an important central piece because I think that this will be, opening the way for having a fresh, 20 years after the first form-based code, look at how the zoning instruments have worked for us and what they have delivered and what they need to deliver and haven't delivered yet. Last but not least, we're in a place where it is extremely important that government and community work together, that we are very close to each other and that we can see each other more often and in more substantial ways. I started an initiative this year to make to bring government where we are. So, for example, I will have open door Mondays, office hours, basically, in all neighborhoods in Arlington. The next one, on February 27th, if I'm not wrong, is in Arlington Mill, by the way. So please take advantage of these. Come and see us. Let's have a talk about the specific issues that affect real people in real places in real time, so that we deliver or we develop the toolkit that we need to address these. And I'm talking also specifically also to the many federal employees who are now extremely under extreme stress, and everybody else who lives on the Pike. This also is a last footnote, but an important one on our desire to retool the relationship and improve the relationship with groups like the Columbia Pike President's Group. It is important to be in constant contact. I thank you so much for your civic leadership, but I look forward to be able to have a more continuous relationship with you, and that's also, and I'm conveying the desire of my colleagues as well. It is important to be, to come back to some of these morning breakfasts, dive into the weeds of neighborhood concerns, because significant core concerns of the entire community are hidden in there, and we can then address them. So thank you for having me today, and I'm open to all the questions that you may have later. And I believe it's now Andrew's speaker, right?
Yes, it's me. And I'm so grateful to you, Takis, in particular, and to all of you for joining us. Takis in particular, as a predecessor of the leadership of the Columbia Pike Partnership, at CPRO, as Alex said, and for your leadership on the Arlington County Board, and as a proud and very active and engaged resident of the Pike corridor. I'm also thankful to each and every one of you for taking the time to be here today. It's different than a year ago, when I could look at the list of people here and I knew some of them, and now I see so many names that are active and engaged in the Pike corridor, and I'm just so grateful. So just a few thoughts very quickly. I think most people know this, but I like to say it. Columbia Pike truly is the epicenter of the best of Arlington. We're about 18% of the county's population, but we're 25% of APS's population. As you've probably heard me to say, that we are the future of the county lives on the Pike. And we have over 30% of the committed affordable housing in the whole county is on the Pike, which means that we have a very diverse community that not only is diverse, but it allows us to both be innovative and celebrate both our small businesses, our newly arrived, people who've been here for decades, and it's a really wonderful, special place. At the partnership itself, it's been very busy, and I think that's been apparent to some of you, but it will be apparent to all of you soon when you start to see all the events that we have coming up. I will say, and everybody, I imagine, will say something about looking forward to the end of construction. I know nobody is more looking forward to the end of construction than our small business owners and our residents. But I know everybody on this call is looking forward to the end of the improvements that Takas and others have or will reference. But beyond that, we're looking forward to not only new developments, but also new opportunities, whether that's new housing or the expansion and really the reinvention of the Barcroft community at the intersections of 4 Mile Run and George Mason. And as we continue to celebrate both our existing legacy small businesses, but also our new businesses that are making a new home on the Pike and building on both the precedent and the legacy of the communities that have been here before. And that's what's so great about the Pike. It's our diversity and always striving for both growth, but making sure that we are growing in an intentional way. And like Takas mentioned, we have this wonderful tool, the form-based code, but we know that it's been tweaked along the way, and we will continue to look for ways to make it work for our community. At the partnership, we're also excited about the programming that we have coming up in the year ahead. Most significantly, our Pike Progress Lunch on April 10th, but before then, our happy hours, our lunch clubs, our meetings with the businesses, our meetings with the Pike Presidents Group. And after this meeting, we'll be sending you the slides again that we sent you this morning with our upcoming events. And you can always find out about this on our website or social media. So now I would like to turn it over to one of our very own small businesses, a treasured business who's been on the Pike for a very long time, Sandra Claros, who's the owner of Abby Azteca. So Sandra.
Hi, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you, Sandra. Thank you.
Hello?
Yes, you're good.
I'm good?
Yeah, you're good. You're better than good. You're
Okay.
awesome.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, I'm happy to join you guys this morning. This is Sandra from Abby Azteca Grill on Columbia Pike. As you know, I've been on Columbia Pike since 1989. The restaurant opened the doors, was the first restaurant on the Pike opened the doors in 1986. And I was happy to hear about HB. That was my first school when I came to Arlington from El Salvador, and I have good memories about the school, about the Pike is about 35 years. I've been living on the Pike and working on the Pike. I live in Alexandria, but for me, my hometown it's Arlington. It's Columbia Pike. I've been spent 35 years. It's like a family. It's like my second home. And I see like everybody's talking about all the changes, and I remember like about 20 years ago, everybody was talking about this building is gonna be gone, and where is Abby is gonna go. And I was afraid, you know, like this is the place I work. Where am I gonna do? But I'm happy we're still there, and we hope to be there for another 10 years. We just signed a lease 2 years ago for another 10 years. I hope I can make it. I, as I told you, I really love Columbia Pike. It's I know a lot of people like you guys. I participate in Bruce Fest, and which is very fun, and I hope to participate this year again, because I tried to participate in the past, and looks like I tried to sign up too late. And yeah, as I told you, like I see all those changes, and when I drive through George Mason, I saw you all done with that part. I'm like, looks really nice, and the traffic is better, and I hope you done very soon with, you know, the other part that you working on it. And yeah, I'm like uh he was talking about also the immigration, and for last couple of week I I I feel it, you know, like a lot of Latino are afraid to go out, and my clients are like, let's say 40 Latinos, and the rest like other countries. But um as I told you, I was afraid, like I don't want to lose my business. Like we like a lot of Latino people are afraid to go out, and I've been here for 38 years. I want to celebrate 40 years on the Pike. I don't want to, I don't want to go, you know. And but yeah, I'm you know, bedtime, I mean good times coming. So I really appreciate, guys, your support, and I will happy to join the lunch club again, because we did a year ago, and it was like a lot of, it was very helpful for us. And again, thank you for letting me join this meeting today, and God bless you all.
Thank you, Sandra. Thank you. And thank you for your business. And I think Takis knows how long you've been on the Pike. I just know it's been a very long time, and we're grateful, right, Takis? Yes, okay. Well, I know there's a question for Takis in the chat. I do want to get to these other questions, and let me just tell everybody how we're planning on doing this. So if our panelists could turn on their cameras. In the past, the way that we did this is that each department that we had participating made a small presentation, and then we had questions. So today what we are going to do is we've sent you their presentations, and we'll just have a series of questions that we're going to ask the various departments and our participants. And we are delighted to have representatives from 6 different departments: our Arlington Economic Development Department with Kate Angie, our Police Department with Chief Vincent and Chief Penn, sorry, I think Chief Penn's here, although I've been all over the place. And then we have representatives in Hui Wang, and I don't know if there's anybody else with you, Hui, from DES. And then we have CPHD with Anthony Fusarelli, and Parks, Tim McIntosh. And I think that's everybody, but like I said, when you have 90 people and you're trying to pick out the people you're trying to identify, it becomes challenging. But so the way that we did this is that we first wanted to start a question with everybody, and then we can go, so we're not trying to spend half the meeting figuring out who speaks next. I'll call on people and we'll start with the AD. But the first question is, what are some current projects or future projects that your department is specifically working on the Pike? And we're not giving scores for who talks the most. So whatever you want to say is great, and then we'll go on to the next department. So Kate, if you could get us started.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Kate Angie, Deputy Director at Arlington Economic Development. I think the biggest focus that we have continues to be small business support. And I'm excited to kind of share that, over the past year, we've really done a lot to kind of get at the points that everyone's made about how do we mitigate some of the negatives of the construction and just continue to promote the small businesses on the Pike and provide as much both technical assistance when needed, but also promotions. And one of the things specifically is the Open Rewards program. That's something we're going to continue into the new year. The second thing is we have kind of the All in Arlington campaign, which is all about attracting visitors to the Pike. There's actually a Columbia Pike page dedicated to that. So when people visit Arlington, we try to get them to the destinations on the Pike. Our cultural affairs team partners with Columbia Pike on the signature event, the Blues Festival, but we also oversee the public art program. So we continue to want to do that. So that's kind of the top of our list in terms of activities on the Pike recently and moving forward.
That's great. Thanks. Thank you, Kate. And I was going to go in this alphabetical order. I'm not seeing, I think I was going to call on the public schools, but chiefs, I can just say chiefs, right? If you might want to just talk a little bit about, I know you have some crime statistics that you shared with folks for the meeting. If there's anything in particular about the crime statistics or anything in particular that you want to share about what police department's doing on the Pike or more broadly, we'd love to hear it. Now, and you're muted too. Let me see if I can ask you to unmute.
I think we're on now.
There we go.
Can you hear us okay?
I can, Chief Vincent. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. So I think when it comes to initiatives going into this year with the Columbia Pike, I think it falls back on our key initiatives, specifically traffic control, crime control and prevention, and community engagement. I'll just hit all three very, very quickly. Traffic control, and I have the numbers if anybody wants to ask. I know that may be a question later on, but we continue to have a very robust traffic enforcement along the Columbia Pike corridor. And I also want to bring to point too that we also have a photo red light along the corridor where this in 2024 alone, we issued over 7,900 tickets to get people to comply with our speed laws and our red lights along the corridor. As far as further than that, we're also going to continue to have traffic details along the Pike as well. When it comes to crime control, this year we did several details along our high profile areas, residential and commercial areas along the county. We'd like to continue that and also add Columbia Pike to that, especially around the east side of Columbia Pike, around the Penrose area. We know we've had some concerns around the Giant and Penrose, so we'd like to do some details this summer, especially when we tend to see shoplifting going up. And of course, this year, if you see the stats I provided, we did see our shoplifting go up a little bit. So that's something we definitely want to hit this year as well. And lastly, we want to continue to do a robust community engagement along the Pike. We have several programs we continue to do along the Pike, whether it be our SEPTED programs to do crime assessments, those businesses and residentials that want it, all the way to doing education and doing engagement, whether it be coffee with a cop, pupusa with a cop, or really working with DPR at the Arlington Mill Community Center, again, doing more education and engagement activities with our communities. And again, I can get more specific if you like, but those are our main initiatives going into this year. Thank you.
That's great. And thank you, Chiefs, for that. And also thank you. I know that you talked, and I saw Chief Penn on the news earlier this week, but thank you for all of your work related to the tragedy last week at the airport. Obviously, as somebody who's been in Arlington a long time, I remember the last time a plane crashed. These are the things that stick with you and definitely show the character of our community. So thank you for that. And now I would like to sorry, Jeff, I just saw you went off mute, but I could call on APS to just give us an update. And I know Steve's also on the call because we have this very large Career Center project online or ongoing as well. So Jeff, I'll turn to you first from Arlington Public Schools. And now you're muted again. It's like playing the muting game. So, I'm asking you here.
Thank you, Andrew. As far as APS goes, we're continuing to work on the Career Center. Steve Stricker's here if we want to get into the construction details, but generally we're looking to open the Career Center in the fall of 2026. And at that time, all of the sidewalks from our standpoint should be completed on South Walter Reed and making those connections. And we'll be moving around to the 9th Street side and begin working on the parking structure at Highland and 9th that will be installed. And then into the fall of 2027 will be the play field will be completed. The school board currently does have direction, and we're going to be starting to look at design professionals for looking at the relocation of MPSA, Surrey Public School of Arlington, into the Legacy Career Center, and then redeveloping the corner of Highland and 7th Street. So that's the direction that we're currently going. And we're here if there are any additional questions. Now you're muted.
I like to joke after 5 years, you'd think we'd have figured out this Zoom thing, but we're still about 50% proficiency on unmuting at the appropriate times. So we have a few more departments. We're sharing a lot of information. We have a lot of questions to get to. I'd like to now call on Hey Wang from I think I said it right. From DES. Excuse me, sorry. And I'll turn it over to you. Sorry, thanks. It was the muting that got me all rattled.
Okay, thank you. I'm now unmuted, and at the beginning, I mean, of course,
Wait, if you could turn your video back on, I messed up. So when I was unmuting you, sorry about that. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, okay, fine. The Pike project obviously is the front and center of attention, and as many of you already noticed and already talked about, we have reached substantial completion for segment A and F. A is all the way to the east, connecting to the Defense Access Road, and F is connecting to where we have already completed, which is the HNI segments. So we are very excited. We know, community has really endured through the inconvenience and the challenges of the construction. Nobody likes construction, but we are together seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. We're going to reach substantial completion on all segments. So by end of this year, I hope we can come back to you and bring and share the good news of we finally reached that. I do want to highlight a little bit of what I have seen as a sort of a transportation professional when we work in Arlington. I can't tell you how many times we're at a corridor where people want a few extra feet for the sidewalk, so it's safe. And we have the utility posts smashed in the middle of the sidewalk. That's what historically being built. And at that point, I was like, I wish this is Columbia Pike. Many times when we have signals and the intersection that's in a very challenging situation to be managed, and I tell myself, I wish this is Columbia Pike. So the Pike really has gone through a lot of challenges, but the Pike also have received a tremendous investment, and I'm sincerely hope it will benefit the residents, the business for the next era, really. Personally, contribution-wise, I will say I encourage my grown children to go spend their weekend on the Pike. I told them, Mama made a mess there. You guys better spend your dollar if you're going somewhere. So, yeah. talking about what else that's coming, by end of this June, which is when the next fiscal year starts, WMATA's bus used to be 16M, now 840, will go to 6-minute interval. Although the service is provided by Metro Bus, the plan, the investment, the coordination is done by Arlington. So really thank our county board for supporting that and thank my staff for making it happen. There's, if we use the Pike as sort of the blood vessel and look at all the crossroads and everything, there are a lot of projects. So I'm not trying to, take all the time. Just want to make a few sort of mentioning. Walter Reed Drive Complete Street Project. This one is closely coordinated with the Career Center, because when the Career Center is done, it's going to change the landscape, the sidewalk, and sort of, the overall traffic demand of that segment, which is where the Complete Street Project comes in to make it a complete holistic rearrangement. We have the South Urban Street Sidewalk Project from 6th Street to 7th Street. That one, actually, we are expecting construction to start late winter, early springish. We have the South Current Springs Road pedestrian improvement project going on, and the South Current Springs directly feeds and fed from Columbia Pike. That is one of the corridor. I wish we could have more undergrounding going, but again, I'm just so glad Pike get the treatment. South George Mason Drive and South 4 Mile Run Drive, we are doing an alternative analysis study. This one is in collaboration with the Metro Washington Council of Government. We are trying to look for ways to make basically the traffic management and the configuration of that intersection into a safer configuration. Again, many projects going on, and our transit stations will get a really, improvement when the Pike project is done. You've seen some of those new shelter, new bench. They will be implemented along the Pike when the project is done. That's about the highlight I want to mention, and now I can take questions.
Thanks, Hui. I think what we'll do, Hui, is go to our final two departments, and then we'll have a pause just for a couple questions that have come in, and then we'll go to some other questions. Excuse me. But first, I'd like to turn it over to Tim McIntosh from the Department of Parks and Rec.
Okay. Thank you, Andrew. Can you hear me okay? Super. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me. Just want to touch base on a few of the projects that we have upcoming along the Pike that we're working on right now. We have several park projects that we're upgrading: Monroe Park, Douglas Park, Doctors Run, Bailey's Branch Park. And we also just, Chairman Karen Tonis and his colleagues approved the bid for construction just last week for our first dedicated pickleball facility at Walter Reed. So we're excited that that's finally going to get started and get underway. Sometime probably in March, mid to late March, we should be breaking ground over there. All the other parks I mentioned are essentially upgrades to what is existing there. So we're moving forward with engagements that we'll have over the course of this year, and some will fall into 2026, but we're hoping that a couple of those, like Douglas Park, perhaps Monroe Park, we might be able to break ground later this year on those. We're also continuing with our robust programming that we have at all the community centers. As you know, DPR hosts a lot of programs at the Arlington Mill Community Center, the Walter Reed Community Center, and also the Carver Community Center. These include 55+ programs, teen programs. We have a lot of summer camps. So all of that takes a lot of work and a lot of support. And so we hope to continue those throughout the course of the year. I think that's all I have for DPR. Thank you, Andrew.
Thanks, Tim. And there are some great questions coming in, and so what we'll do, we'll answer those questions in a minute. And we actually have a very own question just on the Fillmore Shopping Center, which was Tyler's question, but we will get to that in a second. Finally, but last but not least, for those of us who know they're definitely not last, they're definitely not least, our friends over at CPHD, Community Planning, Housing, and Development. And we're grateful to have Anthony Fusarelli here to speak for us, or speak to us from CPHD.
Thank you, Andrew, and good afternoon, everyone. Again, Anthony Fusarelli, Planning Director with Arlington County. While today I'm serving as our department's representative on today's panel, I would like to note CPHD is led by our director, Samia Bird, who with her immediate team provides overall leadership, vision, strategy, and structure to guide the work of our department's 6 divisions. And so before noting just a few specific ongoing projects, I would like to briefly introduce everyone to CPHD and elevate all of our divisions here. You'll certainly be hearing shortly about some of the specific work coming out of the Planning Division and the Housing Division in particular. But I should also note Columbia Pike benefits from and is certainly impacted by a lot of important work that is done by our zoning division, by our inspection services division, our neighborhood services division, and all of us are supported by and kept on track through our business operations division, supporting the department. Now to highlight just a few of our department's current and ongoing projects along the Pike, and thanks to Chair Karen Tonis for already noting a number of these projects already, but to keep it focused, the Planning Division has several ongoing regulatory and development-focused projects happening along Columbia Pike. And those, for example, include zoning ordinance amendments to the form-based code coming to the county board this month to address a range of technical amendments that we periodically work to update. But focusing more on Barcroft, we have additional form-based code amendments and general land use plan and master transportation plan amendments, which are really in furtherance of the new vision for Barcroft, building upon the updates to the long-range vision plans that were approved by the county board last summer as well. And as was mentioned, we're also excited to be completing our review of the first new construction project for the Barcroft Apartments, fronting Columbia Pike across the street from the Centro, proposed with 110 new homes, all committed affordable units, which will be coming before the Planning Commission and County Board this month. Also, just to spotlight, the Housing Division continues to be steadfast in working to support the new ownership for the Barcroft Apartments and the new vision, really to renovate and redevelop portions of the property over the years ahead, with what is really just a generational 99-year commitment to maintaining affordability at levels up to 60% of the area media income. So in addition to those development components, housing staff continues to work on the financial support necessary from the county to the various phases of the project, and with the development coming forward, approval coming forward later this month. Coming with it will be a loan reallocation to support Jair Lynch's application for some competitive low-income housing tax credits tied to that. So I will stop there and happy to address questions a little later.
Thank you, Anthony, and thank you as well. So we have a few more questions, and then I know we have some audience participation questions. And I think we've heard a lot about what we were hoping to hear from the departments. I do want to give Chairman Karen Tonis, a moment just to go back to John Murphy's question, a long time and a former chair of the Columbia Pike Partnerships question regarding related to the impact of the business and the residents on the construction. So Takis, we'll let you take that, and then there was a couple of questions for Away, which are also related to the construction. So Takis.
Okay, unmuted. What is exactly the question? How the construction impacts business and how we're coming back out of that?
And what can the county do, I believe, to support those
Yes.
businesses as we end the construction?
So I believe that Kate from AD said already a few things about this. I do think that in collaboration with CBP, and that's a critical part. CBP is here a critical partner in action on the street. In collaboration with CBP, we need to see how we cover out of the situation that the businesses, the difficult situation that they went through on the Eastern Pike right now. It's segment D. That's a segment that affects a lot of businesses. And we'll come back to additional stressors there. And we have seen the businesses on the Western Pike after the completion of the also very lengthy construction to come back fairly fine. That doesn't mean with flying colors. That means that we didn't lose any significant number of businesses, but we also didn't gain any new businesses. That's a problem. So on the Eastern Pike, I have to begin thinking about two things. We have seen the issue of the 2600 block where Cyprus older office is. That's where the CVS is. This block has been in, to put it politely, in a situation that is blight. I mean, it doesn't attract anybody. It's dark in the night. It's not safe. It doesn't contribute to the walkability and the attractiveness of the place. I do think that this compounds on the impacts of the construction, and therefore we need to really think in addition to what we are doing already, how we can help these businesses to come back. One of the most practical things to do is to make sure that the businesses that would be affected by ongoing construction or by redevelopment, like the businesses that are take Acme Pie, for example. We really tried to figure out a way for Acme Pie to move across the street, and we have to help them to get their business licenses as far as possible, and to start and to restart and reset the business from what I consider a far better place. So this kind of case management where it is needed will need to be in place. The second thing is we need to think creatively and in community what other more novel programs we need. So for example, can we find a way to have a facade improvement or a signage improvement program, something that honors legacy businesses that have been like Sandra's business that has been more than 40 plus years, 45, 46, 48 years on the Pike. I'll give you an example. We'll be celebrating on Limestone Boulevard 50 years of Heidelberg pastry. We should be doing that literally every month on the Pike, because we have businesses who are celebrating around birthdays, and this attracts and rekindles the community's attention. For what I've seen so far, it is the local community that has come to the rescue of most of these businesses, whether it is Celtic or Sabores or Chamacos or even William Jeffries. This is the local community that got the message at some point that they have to support their businesses in a difficult time. Now we have to leverage that. So when the Pike is back, and it will be relatively soon now, that we can give them a boost out of this difficult period. So I'm very open to constructive proposals, whether it is additional events, where it is additional marketing, where there's additional marketing support, etc. I know that what we are doing right now is a lot more than what we were doing or not doing before, but I believe that because of these compounding effects of many stressors, we need to do more. And I agree with those who expect more on this. So we are working on this.
Thank you. And we have about 30 minutes left total, so we're just gonna kind of plow through a few different questions. I do want to go back to Hui in just a second. One of the things in terms of transportation that I'm looking forward to talking about is making sure that we have great connectivity north to south, not just east to west on the Pike. And regarding what Takis was just saying, part of this is for CPP and our partners to think for other creative ways. So we're not just going to the county. So we're increasing our grant applications, collaborations with businesses, collaborations with other funders to think how we can do some of this work to support our businesses. And the facade improvements has been done successfully in a lot of other cities and communities, including the District of Columbia. So with that way, there are a couple of questions, or maybe they're just related to the ongoing construction. And when in the intermittent spaces where people are, the construction is not finished, but then they're, I think you read the question, but just to make sure that when they're putting the asphalt back down, it's very disruptive and bumpy and in some cases even damaging to
Yes.
cars. So
I
probably,
think
but Taka, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I promised Hui I would give her a chance to respond, and then I will let you then we can go from there. But let's Hui, can
Yeah.
we? Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Because now you can be responsible for everybody's axles on the Pike, and we don't want to do that to our chairman.
Thank you, Andrew. While I start answering this question, if you could also unmute Mike Moon, who has, made a lot of contribution of dealing with this type of things. First of all, just to say, we have construction standard, and we have that in our contract with the contractor to return the road back into, certain standard of condition. And we have actually our project managers and construction managers very closely monitoring these. Actually, two of the project managers are in this meeting as well. And we have heard from you all of the feedback. And I know, we've been working with the contractor to bring them up to, really to bring them up to shape of following the standard. We also have done extra paving, repaving to better the condition. And I know Mike has made a lot of direct contribution to that. Mike, I'm going to pass that to you.
Yeah, thanks, Hui. Just real quickly, and I'll be brief on this, but I would note it's a challenge when you build a construction project with this many relocations. And we're dealing with Washington Gas, Dominion Energy, duct banks. And then we've had this year a record number. We're almost up to 90 to 100 water main breaks. And some of those have been along the Pike. So I just put that out there. Our construction management team is reviewing the Pike daily with the contractor, Milani. And we did in the fall. We stopped them for a couple of weeks to do what Hui described, bringing in millers and some paving equipment and some segments to try to finish off the work in a more in a smoother manner for the driving public. I would note that sometimes in the day right after a patching job, they'll use cold patch, especially during this cold, freezing weather break. That's what they can get from the asphalt plants. And we have to come back later sometimes to smooth it out. So there is a process. But I would say one of the things, I just emphasize what Hui said, both Kamali Long, who's the project manager on segments A and F, and Sheila Bogar, they work directly with our construction management team to deal with these issues or concerns. So if you have those concerns, I think most people on the call that are business owners have their contact information, but we can continue to provide that, Andrew. I think that communication, if you see challenges, and Andrew, as you know, we were out there this weekend correcting some maintenance of traffic issues at Courthouse Road and Columbia Pike. So it's that level of daily communication that matters to make this work with the Pike residents and business owners. So thanks.
Thank you, Mike, and thank you, Hui. And Mike, we work very closely with everybody on the call, but I will say that CPP, for better or for worse, has probably more calls with DES every week because of all the calls that we're hearing and questions that we get related to Columbia Pike Forward. So just both a appreciation, shout out, and thanks for answering these questions, coming into, I don't want to say the line of fire, but coming into the source of a lot of these questions. And
Sure,
I think we're all working towards a more communicative, collaborative community, but more so than anything else, we're just looking forward to being over. And I think that's
Absolutely.
just, that's the bottom line, that there's going to be until we get it done, there's going to continue to be these things. I do want to shift a little bit and ask a few other questions. Just these are some questions that we've received from the community, and now that we have about a half an hour left, I just want to make sure that we also I do think probably now is a good time for us, even if it's not quite in the order that I shared with our panelists before, just to talk a little bit about the Fillmore Shopping Center, where people have talked about that in a couple of different ways. But the Fillmore Shopping Center is where Tilla's was, where the CVS is. That project was slated to be redeveloped a couple of years ago. That project then fell through, and it's been sitting vacant since then. So it's been 3 or 4 years, maybe longer, since there were businesses in that space. What we do know is that the owners of that property are very eager to find another project, and I believe that we will see news about that sooner rather than later. Unfortunately, when that project originally fell through, it was not a great time in the macroeconomic sense due to interest rates and construction and supply chain things. So it was kind of a perfect storm. And ultimately that, because of laws and the state that we live in and the way that home ownership and property ownership works, that is up to the business owner. And what we can do is continue to look for opportunities to attract businesses there. And then once businesses want to come here, to make it as easy as possible for them to comply and work through the process. So I don't know if there's anybody else from either AED or CPHD that would like to talk specifically or more broadly about the Fillmore projects, or in general, just development on the Pike. And there was a question about the Penrose Park and filling that out. When that project is done, whenever it is done, that is when the second half of Penrose Park will also be redeveloped. And so we are eager for a number of reasons to move forward on those projects, because Penrose Park is one of the best places that we can engage and gather the community on the Pike. And we look forward to being able to do it with more people. So, with that, I don't know if anybody wants to step into that one, but that's basically all that I know, at least. So, anybody from CPHD and AED, and I'm looking at my face primarily, which is unfortunate, but so I can't see if anybody's raising their hands. Or
Andrew, Anthony is raising his hand. That's
oh, good. We'll take it, Anthony. We will do it. Oh, we have to unmute you. We've been very paternalistic, I would say, with cameras and microphones today. So thank you for your compliance and patience. Anthony, I think I've unmuted you now, but no.
All right, no, there we go. I think we're good. All right. No, thank you, Andrew. I don't know that I have too much more to add, but I would note, and Chair Carantonis could speak to this as well, as he did it in the moment. But last May, when the county board voted to discontinue that redevelopment project that was approved several years prior, I know it was not a decision. It was not a decision that the board took lightly. And I would just, elevate for broader awareness at that time. The representation of the applicant team did note, as you noted, the challenging sort of market conditions sort of in the moment. There was certainly a complicated deal with multiple parties that led to the ultimate demise of that approval. But looking ahead, we understand that when the right conditions surface, that there is interest in a future redevelopment project there, probably look a little bit different from the one that was approved. It would be our expectation that it would realize the full vision of Penrose Square and achieve the second half of that park. But also in the nearer term, until those conditions are better for prospective redevelopment, I do want to call out or shout out the work of our inspection services division and the efforts that they have taken going back a year or so to work with the ownership and the applicant team on near-term improvements that could be made to those spaces to potentially get tenants back in the current space and reactivate portions, if not all of that building frontage, which is so central to the Pike. In the nearer term, and prospectively looking at redevelopment longer term. So just a few additional perspectives and perhaps broader context as was being discussed about mid-year in 24. Thank you.
Takis, let me just follow up with Kate first, and we'll come back. But Kate, I was just wondering, in terms of AED's efforts and maybe biz launches as well, to not only retain businesses, which is an important part of what we do at what AED does and what we do at the county, but also attracting new businesses. And maybe you could just speak a little bit to that in a broad sense. And if
Sure. So I think one of the, key activities of our team is business recruitment, retention, and expansion. And the biggest opportunities that we continue to see on the Pike are around our kind of legacy businesses, existing businesses. And again, we've really been hands-on in trying to help everybody weather kind of the construction storm. That said, I think countywide, all of you are probably aware that we are in a bit of a uncertain times in terms of demand for what we call kind of our office space, if you will. And there's a lot of shifts happening across the river that, make that a really fuzzy outlook. That said, we also think that there are going to continue to be some opportunities as things shake out in terms of some consolidations of existing federal leases, as well as then the contractor tail, as we call it. So lots of moving parts that we're just really trying to keep our eye on. But the longer term also, as you all know, is to make sure that the county can best reposition itself in terms of the overall supply of commercial to residential to meet the market. And so as Anthony has spoken to, a lot of times it is the market that we're waiting on, as opposed to necessarily our rules and regulations kind of preventing it. And I think we're at a moment right now where there's just a fair amount of uncertainty. That said, I saw another question about Amazon Fresh and these ideas about, is there a retail attraction strategy that we should be looking at for the Pike perhaps? And I think, Andrew, that's something that we're certainly interested in and can talk further with you on to figure out what could that look like, especially in trying to find businesses that might fill some of the properties that are likely redeveloping long-term, but could use some short-term leases. So we'll continue to partner with you all on that.
yeah, I mean, I think that's exactly right, Kate. And I think we all play a role in that. We as consumers, we get to decide and we kind of help drive the market. We as marketers and telling the Pike story and working with our partners at AED and the other parts of the county, making sure that when businesses want to come here, that we're not putting up undue barriers and obstacles, which is one of the advantages of the form-based code. The Pike is somewhat unique and lucky in some ways and challenged in others because we have such a low percentage of commercial office space that we're not facing some of the vacancies that places like National Landing and Roslyn are dealing with. But it also means that we're dependent on certain types of businesses that want to be on the Pike. And so we're doing our best to attract them. And there also has to be space. We do not have actually a very high vacancy rate on the Pike, except for some of these businesses that we're talking about. And there was a question about uncondemning them. I don't want to speak for Anthony, but I imagine that CPHD would be happy. And there have been some aspects of that building that have been worked on with code enforcement and others. But ultimately, that is the decision of the business owners to decide what they need to do to bring buildings up into compliance. And that's a two-way street, right? And I think the owners of that building have really focused on making sure that they're doing everything they can to find a new development there, not necessarily have businesses in there for the short term. I mean, and that's based on what we've learned from our conversations with them. And it's probably a longer answer. I've learned more about urban planning in the last 13 months than I realized was possible. And I know that there are other questions and we're running out of time. I did want to ask two things. Or the Festival of Prio Bangalore, yes, it's very important. I do think it will happen this year. CBP is engaged with them with Prio Bangalore, and I know Takis is very committed to that as well. There was a question that we received beforehand, the panelists know about it, and I just want to ask it just because Sandra talked a little bit about it. But is there anything in particular that you or your departments or the county writ large is doing in particular towards our citizens, our newly arrived, our immigrant community, our non-white community who may be facing real or perceived threats, and how do we, as a community and as a county, support them during these, I would say, uncertain times? And that was a question that came from several different people prior to the meeting. And Takis, for better or for worse, you probably had your hand up for another question, but we'll let you start with this one and go from there.
Tell me. Sorry, I didn't hear very well the last one.
I'm just saying that there were several questions related to how is the county and the community able to respond to the real and perceived threats of the new administration in Washington.
So the county is very, very much aware of these. The county is monitoring that, and it's monitoring together with our number one priority is to be in very close contact with the affected communities themselves and support their networks and support their resilience. The county, there are legal limits to what the county can do, but there are always ways to stand by our residents. And we have actually an acquired playbook about how we do that. And we do that, in my opinion, effectively and very proactively right now. The affected communities, the organizations that represent them, or where the community comes together, a wide network of individuals, like you have experienced them during the census work or during the pandemic. These networks are activated, and we are in constant contact. We are listening in all the time, and we are providing resources that make them more resilient. This is what I can say in public. Other things we can discuss in private. What I want to say, though, for everybody, we know that not only the individuals or the abstract communities that are affected, but there are all specific ones. Many small businesses right now, the Pike, are in fear as well. There's not only individuals but businesses. It is very disruptive what the federal government is doing, not only to the immigrant community, but also the federal workforce, a big chunk of which is actually residing on the Pike. They are our neighbors. We are constantly updating the information that we have. We provide resources, assistance, when their lives are impacted. We do that. We make sure that everybody knows their rights. We make sure that everybody knows where to go, who to call, if any of the actions of the federal government hits home. And this is not a question of if for many, but a question of when. So we are also strategic and careful about that. We also we also pay a lot of attention to vulnerable communities that are vulnerable in this sort of culture wars that is ongoing, like our LGBTQ plus community, who is acutely impacted right now. So it's not, we are aware, we geared up, we are in many circumstances ready. As I told you before, we have been preparing. We had enough time to prepare. What sometimes is challenging is the pace and the sheer chaotic nature of the impacts that we have seen, especially in the last few days. So nevertheless, we are going to stand by our residents, and because this is our job and our commitment, and I think the entire county staff's commitment, to whom I am explicitly very, very thankful. Everything that they do adds to the resilience of the entire community.
Thank you.
I had raised my hand before to say a couple of things about the Fillmore and the Fillmore shopping center. So there is a challenge embedded there. The challenge is that we have the construction segment number D that is going now, and we hopefully, or not hopefully, we try to get it done fairly fast by the end of this year. Then we have the potential, we have the construction, we have the career center construction site on 4 Mile on Southwark Walter Reed. Then we'll have the corner to be another construction site, and then eventually we'll have the Fillmore construction site, and then eventually we'll have the second half of the square. It's the actual delivery of that is a CIP discussion, and at some point also later, 27 onward, the Columbia Pike Library, the project that is slated to start where the old SunTrust building is. So I'm saying that because one of our goals here, at least in the way the county board is thinking about that, is to try to persuade everybody involved, and these are many parties, to be as streamlined as possible, so as to minimize the accrued or the aggregate disruption that may come from all this. So it's not a minor issue, and we need a community partnership to get it right.
Great. Chief Penn and Chief Vincent, I see your hand up, so we'll go there, and then we'll talk about a couple of other things.
So I recognize we're running out of time, but I want to be just really brief about the police department's role in all the conversations about immigration. Instead of taking a lot of time, I'm going to share in the chat a one-page document that outlines our policy in both English and Spanish. But in very short, the enforcement of immigration laws is the responsibility of the federal government. The Orange County Police Department does not do civil immigration enforcement, have not, do not, and will not do that. It's not our role. As you'll see in the document we put in the chat, there's very few, there's 3 different very specific instances when we would even notify ICE, and it's basically when somebody is a threat to the community. But our officers don't ask that status because in the end, having an entire community that's willing to engage with us, that trust us, is how we get to public safety. And, our goal is to have the entire community trust the police department so that we can have productive relationships, so that we can all work together for safety. So I just wanted to hit on that really quick. I recognize the time. I think the one pager is pretty comprehensive, but we're always happy to answer any questions anybody has.
Okay, I have one. Thank you, Chief Penn. Thank you, Chief Vincent. So just a couple of things. I think that Chief Penn's answer did kind of help us segue into this last piece. That one of the things that I've been very impressed with everybody's, with working with all the various aspects of the community, is how the departments do work together and collaborate together. And I know we have a lot of people on this call who have not and will not speak, but are all part of that team, including the folks from community engagement, the folks from the county manager's office, a lot of people who support the departments that spoke today. I think we got through pretty much all of the questions this morning that we were sent. There was one question about bus rapid transit, but what I'm going to close out with is just ask anybody on the panel that might want to say anything that they didn't.
Andrew, you have a hand up from Kevin Sheffield.
Yep. Okay. So, all right. Well, since Kevin's one of my bosses on the CPB board and also works at the credit union, so he also has access to my bank account, I should call on him. But I do want to give all of our panelists a chance to just give our last thoughts, right? And so, Kevin, ready to go.
Hi, sorry, real quick. I didn't see the one pager in the chat that was referenced. I don't know if you were saying that you're going to share it afterwards.
Well, Chief Penn and Chief
They'll
share it with us, and we'll make sure that we get it out to everybody.
Gotcha.
So that have no fear that we will get it out. We'll chat's we're being a little we were a little restrictive on the chat, so maybe that's affecting it. But either way, we will get it to everybody via the email, follow-up email. And we also had calls, so you can tell all your friends and family that yes, this is recorded, so we'll be sharing this. You can share it with your families if you're excited and they're excited. But just with that, does anybody from our departments or people from the departments who didn't have a chance to speak have anything that they wanted to add? We have 5 minutes and we are going dark in 5 minutes. It's and that's okay, because I also wanted to call on just very quickly and introduce, like I said, we do have people from the community engagement team, including, I'm just scrolling up to make sure, Stephanie Bello, who has been recently appointed as Constituent Services, Director of Constituent Services. So Stephanie, if nobody else is going to raise their hand, and again, I'm only looking at myself, so if there are hands up, they'll have to be telling me. But Stephanie, maybe you just want to quickly introduce yourself. I hope. If I can find you. There we go. All right, I got you. Aha.
Okay, I think we're good. Hey everyone, thank you, Andrew, for that introduction and for giving me a minute to introduce myself. My name is Stephanie Bello, and I'm the new Director of Constituent Services here in Arlington County. And our office is here to make sure that we are accessible to our residents and our businesses. If there are any issues that you're encountering, contacting different departments, or you need information or any solutions, please feel free to contact us. I'll make sure to send our information to Andrew so that he can distribute it. But I'm very happy to be here and happy to serve however we can to make sure that our government is responsive to your needs. Thank you.
Thanks, Stephanie. And with that, I would just like to say, everybody, thank you for spending your time with us today. Thank you for all you do to make our community stronger every day and to continue to live by the values and the things that make our community so special, especially our Pike community. Obviously, as people are now thinking about other things, that the questions should keep coming, and there's outlets for both the county to answer questions and the opportunity to give feedback for Columbia Pike and the partnership. We have a lot coming up, as you can see, timely on this slide right here, and we want to be doing more all the time. So we look forward to hearing from you. We look forward to seeing you on the Pike, and we look forward to continuing to work towards a Pike that truly leans into the things that make our community special: our diversity, our community, our commitment to smart, intentional, and deliberate growth. So until the next time, thank you all very much for being here. Have a good rest of your week and stay safe.